listening to KPFT Houston.
It's a little scary on Earth tonight. In all the darkness, it's kind of hard to see the light. We need more people with compassionate and fewer commandos. Stand up for what's right on Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. No more animal rodeos. Standing up for animals is a different kind of fight. When corporations keep the truth far from our sight, but the ones who see the truth can't ever let it go. The truth is alive on Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. An animal-free fandango. Climate chaos, a dog and planetary plight. Temperatures reaching annual record heights. If the world ends tomorrow, I'll see you in the afterglow. The postmortem's live on Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. The One Health message in stereo. Rocket leaves right now. You've got a ticket for this flight. Did you think we'd let you leave alone? The stars are burning bright. Strap in tight, ready for takeoff. Ignition, here we go. It's Monday night and time for your Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Let love be your dynamo.
I feel like we should start talking now.
It's Monday night in Houston. Are you ready to rock and roll? It's Monday night in Houston. I think it's Monday night in Houston, so it's Vegan World Radio right here at kpft.org, streaming live and flying at you through the radio airwaves, 90.1 FM in Houston. My name is Scott Jack Morgan, and I'm here with the doctor, one and only Dr. Crystal Heath. Doctor, how you doing?
I'm good. You know, Mondays is my day at the clinic doing lots of spays and neuters, and I got off a couple of hours ago. Long day, 7 hours doing spays and neuters.
How many did you get to?
I honestly, I didn't count, so I don't know. I need to, sit down and look at the video, and because I make a time lapse video of all of my spays and neuters, and
you don't
figure it
count
out.
them after that, do you? Is that when you sit down and count? You're like, oh my gosh, I got to. Interesting. Okay.
But I always
wild.
Listen to something during my surgeries, either a podcast or an audiobook. And I've been binge listening to Mark Vincenti's podcast. He's the whistleblower from the Nexium cult, the Keith Raniere cult. And he just had on Sarma from Netflix's Bad Vegan. And it's a great episode. I highly recommend you listen to Sarma's story. She came out with a book called The Girl with the Duck Tattoo. She's so relatable to my experience in the animal advocacy movement and being manipulated by a cult leader of sorts. So,
is that the one you sent me that was on an Apple? See, I can't. I don't do the Apple. I don't do the Apple.
Then I sent you a YouTube link to
you
it.
Did?
So
don't
I
didn't
complain.
See that. I'll check. I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining about you, dear doctor. I'm complaining about Tim Cook. And not that Tim Cook is any worse or better than Google, but I just have never. I've walked away from Apple after the death of your friend Steve Jobs. So
my friend.
Yeah, your good friend Steve
Okay.
Jobs. I walked away from the company after that, and I don't buy stuff from them if I can stand it. So, but I want to listen to that really badly. I know that one of my phobias is cults.
Mhm.
I get
It should
real.
be all of our phobias, and we should
Yes.
all learn to notice the signs of cultiness and
Yes.
steer clear of them. Notice when people are behaving like cult members.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mark Vincente's podcast is so great, and I've learned so much from it. And it's really been healing in my journey as a cult survivor. So I
I'm gonna
appreciate.
check it out. But yeah, have you ever seen so American Horror Story? They have so many different seasons, but there was one season called Cult, and it was the only one I thought was frightening because it's the
Mhm.
only one that there's nothing supernatural happening in it. It's just a cult, and it's
Yeah.
scary as all get out. It's the only one. All of them, it's television horror, so it's not that scary anyway. But my golly, cults freak me out, man. So I can't wait to listen to it. I'll listen to it. It's great for the Halloween season, isn't it? But
Yeah.
speaking of cults, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the corporate cults of animal exploitation and use in the on this hour, and I hope everyone will stick with us. Let's start with avian influenza. What do you say, Doctor?
Yeah, there's some interesting avian influenza news that came out recently, and massive migrations of birds across the United States. There, I saw one post saying it looked like 500 million birds were flying across the skies as they're migrating, and that's going to spread bird flu like crazy.
Mm.
But recently, the San Francisco County Department of Health learned that a cat became ill with H5N1 after eating raw cat food chicken eats. Raw.
Raw. It's like
So it's,
raw, except it's
yeah,
roar, like RAWR, and then
yeah.
raw cat food. Yeah,
And
the calls coming from inside the house again. Is that keep with the Halloween theme?
this was a chicken based product, and the cat was euthanized. County officials tested a sample from an open container of the product collected by the cat's owner, or cat's human being, I prefer to call them,
Mm-hmm.
revealing H5N1. So, if you happen to be one who is feeding your animals raw food, beware, because we have, the two of us in our investigations of poultry facilities have long suspected that
Yes.
there are poultry producers sending H5N1 infected poultry birds to slaughter. We have seen this from FOIA documents that we've gotten. We have been highly suspicious based on activities that we've observed from various facilities. And it's very interesting. Before this story of this cat being sick and dying and this infected product was released,
Mm.
the USDA did all of this sort of backdoor dealing to sort of deal with the situation. And so
This is what's so.
the,
Mm.
first, let's say what the company said. So the company says it uses only USDA inspected human food grade chicken, and that the H5N1 findings should be addressed at the USDA level. Rohr said the sample from the sick cat's home was tested 6 weeks after the product was open, raising the possibility that it might have been contaminated in the home environment.
Oh, come
And
on.
it added that the products from the other lot were produced from a different poultry source. Well, that to me just says like there are multiple poultry sources of birds being sent to slaughter that are H5N1 infected. And these are human grade, so like you could potentially get it, I think.
Well, I mean, I think it's clear to me. Okay, so first of all, human grade just means that it's fit for human consumption, but we already know that chickens are shipped with salmonella on the skin, with E. coli. We already know that Campylobacter. You have to cook a chicken. In restaurants, you have to store chicken at a different. Do you know about like the walk-in hierarchy? How you have to have different animals stored over different animals in a
No.
walk-in freezer
How
yeah.
does that work?
So it goes. I think it goes crawl. It goes crawl, fly, swim. I think I forget how it goes.
Who crawls? Crawl, fly. So the
cows.
swimmers go on. Okay.
Because
why don't they just say walk?
Walk. I think it goes
fly,
walk,
swim.
fly, swim is how it goes. Because you cook them you cook fish at a lower temperature than you cook. No, wait. Yeah, I think that's how it goes. Fly, crawl, swim. I think that's how it goes. Fly, crawl, swim. And so you have on the top, you cook chicken at a different temperature as you cook fish, as you cook a beef. So the idea is if any bacteria or cross-contamination happens, it'll happen because of gravity, and you'll cook those animal flesh at different temperatures. And so let's say like a bit of fish gets on the beef, no problem, because you're going to cook it off. You're going to cook any kind of, because the beef will be cooked at presumably a different
there's
temperature.
There's like drippage of fluids.
That's
from
it.
The fish
Yes.
to
Right.
The,
exactly. It's mostly fluids. Yeah. It's mostly fluids. It's not usually like a. So anyway, but well, let me ask you this. Cats, last time I checked, have something like an 80% death rate. And the thing is, if you're going to have raw chicken in your house, you have to be incredibly careful. And that means washing your surfaces, using different knives to cut it, cleaning your like a cutting board. You've got to be super careful these days because there's salmonella coming into your house and apparently H5N1.
Yeah, exactly. And no, this case gets really interesting when you dive into it. So the collection date was July 13th. However, the National Veterinary Science Laboratory did not classify the case as officially confirmed until August 29th. This was the first public indication of a feline H5N1 mortality in California coming after the new testing policies were announced. What were these testing policies? So like this cat was confirmed, was tested on July 13th, but on July 26th, APHIS, seemingly out of the blue, like we didn't know where this came from because this story of this cat that died of H5N1 was not yet released yet. And APHIS like randomly decides to announce a new revised policy for enhanced highly pathogenic avian influenza pre-slaughter surveillance. And so I think that was like clearly some sort of like we need to maintain consumer confidence in this whole testing system. So we're not going to release this story about the H5N1 infected cat until after we like revise our testing policy. So then nobody's going to be like, why are these infected poultry birds getting into the food system? So we've always kind of like wondered, how was testing done previously? Like how stringent are these testing policies? So the current pre-slaughter or before this change, the pre-slaughter surveillance for commercial poultry facilities located within active control areas where they had, positive H5N1 flocks, requires PCR testing within 48 hours prior to movement. So pre-slaughter surveillance testing for commercial poultry located outside of an active control area is conducted via serology. And serology is when you test a bird and you see the antibodies in their system. Right? And that serology can occur up to 21 days prior to the movement of slaughter. This is problematic because you could have a new infection, not antibodies, and you've got 21 days. So and they admit this testing scheme could miss infected but not clinically apparent birds if testing is not conducted closer to movement to slaughter. It could also miss acute HPAI infection if testing is based on serologic results alone. Given the current increased risk of HPAI introduction to poultry and to where did this current risk of HPAI introduction to poultry, because it's kind of been a slow news day related to H5N1. Where did this come out of the blue? To poultry and to exercise caution.
Yeah, why is it a current? Maybe it's currently increased because of the migration that you mentioned earlier. Maybe that's what they mean.
And there was some new infections in like North Dakota or something. But USDA APHIS is updating its recommendations for pre-existing slaughter surveillance schemes and clarifying its indemnity policies associated with this guidance. And John Corsland of the former USDA veterinarian, has a wonderful blog that I follow, and he really dives deep into these things, and he kind of goes into what the new recommendations are. And basically the gist is now that producers outside the HPAI control areas in affected states, they want them to quarantine and collect HPAI targeted bird samples at 72 hours prior to shipment in turkey and broiler flocks scheduled for harvest, especially in flocks with increased mortalities above baselines.
Well, that would make sense, right? I mean, okay, do you remember COVID? I don't remember. Were you out and about in COVID? Did you have to take a lot of COVID tests, like do the thing up your nose? Did you do that a lot?
Yeah, I took a lot of tests. I was pretty much, work as usual. I still traveled and everything, and I tried to be as safe as possible, but I was still, going about my day.
Yeah, I went to work every day. I had to take my temperature multiple times a day. I had to take that test every week. Now, imagine if I took that test and I said, and someone said, I show up to work and they said, have you been tested? And I said, oh yeah, 21 days ago.
Yeah.
And that's what people are putting into their mouths. This also, it gives me a couple thoughts here, because do you remember early on, maybe not that early, but fairly recently, but they don't say it as frequently as it used to, but when a lot of chickens were dying or being depopulated, every time at the end of every news segment, they would say, don't worry, poultry and eggs are perfectly safe. Just whatever you do, don't go near any dead birds. And it's like, well, first of all, poultry is a dead bird, and you're putting it into your mouth. But that was such a wonderful, just oxymoronic statement. Don't go anywhere near a dead bird, but don't worry, eating a dead bird is fine. And the
National Chicken Council just says, oh, we test all birds before they go to slaughter. It's
21 days before, and they don't test
and not
them all.
Even that's just not even.
It also kind of sheds light. I don't know. It kind of gives me, I feel like it's one of those progressive JPEGs, and it's getting clearer, because that FOIA document, the FOIA request that came out about Foster Farms trying to resist testing, and them having symptomatic birds on the slaughter trucks, and it seemed like a sizable number. I forget what exactly the percentage, but it was a high percentage.
Like 20% of the birds were sick.
Yeah, we're showing signs of influenza. And to me, it's like, okay, well, they're going to slaughter. They were tested 21 days ago. Who cares that they got puffy faces and eye discharge, and they're all running hot? Unbelievable to me.
Yeah. And Gray Moran of Sentient Media just included that FOIA document in an article recently. So check it out. If you just Google avian influenza, Gray Moran, Sentient Media, you'll see it. And she does
you want to
really
find out more. Yeah.
Good deep dive into all of the problems with our current system and the lack of transparency. And I still need to email Dr. Patisky to remind me to do
the
that.
Industry, the industry's always had a transparency problem, and so has the government. It's always been an issue, which is why FOIA exists. And now, as we get deeper into this, it just looks like they're a bunch of bumbling idiots, like Keystone cops, tripping over their own feet. I mean, and then. You shouldn't be allowed to sell raw chicken, period, at this point, as far as I'm concerned. They've already eliminated the washing of the salmonella. They call it bleaching, but it's not actually bleaching. They kill the bacteria on the skin of dead birds so that it's safer for us, for the consumer. They've done away with that because they want to keep the speed up. So now it's highly likely that you're going to have salmonella inside your house. And if you're giving raw chicken to your cat, you might be giving that cat bird flu. And that cat can in turn give you bird flu. You can catch bird flu from your cat.
That's debatable, but
is it?
John Corsland writes, at the time this was announced, I wondered what had prompted this policy change with no recent major news events or research findings publicized to prompt the announcement. In retrospect, the entire process was likely a rapid but carefully choreographed negotiated response between FDA, APHIS, and the California Department of Public Health to the most recent H5N1 in raw chicken cat food mortality episode in San Francisco, California. FOIA alert. I think we're going to be doing some FOIAs of the California Department of Public Health about this whole fiasco and see what we can find.
We should do one about the Florida thing. This, when it reminds me of the same fiasco that just happened recently in Florida with the raw milk and the E. coli and Campylobacter, right? What is it with these people? Why does everyone want to eat raw animals? I mean, it's like they don't care about the 21st century. We're in the 21st century and we're still arguing about whether or not polio vaccines are safe and whether or not we should be drinking the milk from a different species raw. It's just absolutely.
That's how people can be manipulated by the various cults they join or the various social groups they're in, how these narratives persist despite, this is why we all need to look outside of our bubbles because we're all susceptible to this sort of thing. So what are some problems with this new guidance by APHIS? Shipped asymptomatic infected birds from newly positive herds are not removed from the food supply. APHIS states this is not their issue. However, the testing will provide the processor and the Food Safety Inspection Service with potentially actionable information regarding likely H5N1 infected product already in distribution channels passed for human consumption. So who owns this headache? That's a good point. Nobody is owning anything. This is the problem with our food system. And the 72-hour sampling still provides a 3-day window for the virus to establish itself in flocks and replicate to high levels of viremia without clinical illness, especially in turkeys. 72-hour testing turnaround is a much improved metric versus current H5N1 protocols, which basically depend on increased mortality and FAD testing to find HPA in near market ready birds. This is kind of nuts.
Do you think anybody cares? It bothers me because we all know that fast food is killing us. We all know that, we hear these things about health constantly. And do you think people care about their health? Here we are raising the flag going, hey, everybody, you're going to kill yourself eating that. You're going to get yourself some bird flu. You keep on doing this. No one seems to care. Hey, everybody, you're going to get, I used to say that some days it feels like the feminist movement never happened, like the 60s never happened, and now I feel like the 1850s never happened. Like Louis Pasteur. When did pasteurization come out? Louis Pasteur. That was the mid 19th century, and we're just no. Food safety, forget about it. Eat raw animals, bring them into your house. Do you think? Well,
I don't want to go it's really difficult. I think we are so manipulated by our habits and our social groups. There was a recent study that came out about doctors' perceptions or doctors' ability to their own lifestyle habits, especially cardiologists, their own lifestyle habits.
They tell you not to smoke
based
and they
on their
smoke.
recommendations. 41% recommended a whole food plant-based diet. Only 8% personally complied with such a diet, which I think 8% of a group of professionals is pretty good, given that only 1% of the general population consumes such a diet. And I thought, given all of the animal-based protein industry propaganda, I thought 41% of cardiologists recommending a whole food plant-based diet was pretty great. But
pretty strong, right? But you figure the guys working on hearts all day long, they would be the ones that would, and you're right, 8%'s not bad.
Yeah, only 69% met physical activity guidelines and so on and so forth, which just here you have cardiologists, very disciplined people, obviously able to complete a whole bunch of schooling, but it just goes to show you how hard it is to instill good habits in this society where they make it very difficult to
do what I say, not as I do. But yes, it makes sense, right? Because you're expected to be operating at this level. And what do you have time for? Fast food. I guess I'm going to go to McDonald's. It's right there. I'm sure that they're waiting in line at Whataburger and Chick-fil-A like everybody else does. And it takes some discipline to get out of that habit cycle. You're absolutely right. But is it because of sometimes though, Crystal, and I don't know about this cardiologist, but the average Joe out there, they don't seem to care. Like they don't care that they're getting bigger and their joints hurt and they don't seem to change anything. I don't get it at all.
I don't know. Where I live, everybody's very fit and they spend a lot of time. Although I live in a very fancy building and we have access to really great restaurants, really healthy restaurants, and people are door dashing McDonald's. Like, what is that about? Well, like,
if you could DoorDash anything, you could DoorDash anything in your imagination. What do you think of McDonald's?
Why? Why would you do that? I don't get it. And the majority of people here are really fit, and this building in particular is very fitness aligned. Yet we see the McDonald's DoorDash. It's
looking good on the outside. I mean, I've known lots of fitness people that smoke cigarettes and die early. They look good.
There's this is a non-smoking building, and oh my God, people setting off the smoking alarms
really?
With their cigarettes.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
This is what I mean. I mean, we know these things are bad for you. They keep on. I mean, at least with nicotine, it's like an actual drug, and they're actually putting stuff in. But I guess MSG and some other addictive chemicals are in some of these fast foods, so that makes sense, I suppose. Anyway, I'm always trying to, like everything that we do, it's like you raise the flag and say, hey, this is bad for you, look out, and people just continue, and the animals are stuck getting slaughtered by the billion. It seems.
And our federal regulators are not helping the situation. They just walked back a proposed rule
the EPA
that would have strengthened water pollution standards for slaughterhouse operators. The move to withdraw this proposed rule was published on September 3rd in the Federal Register. And this proposed regulation would have reduced pollutant discharges by almost 100 million pounds per year, including 9 million pounds of nitrogen discharges and 8 million pounds of phosphorus. And this was, supported by the National Pork Producers Council, was celebrating this walking of the back of the rules.
Which makes sense, right? I mean, they love polluting without any kind of with impunity. Why wouldn't they? We know that these high nitrogen levels create these algae blooms and make it difficult. You can't swim in the ocean or in the rivers or the streams. And it's coming from slaughterhouse and dairy runoff and all these others. And the EPA just doesn't. Do you think people care about this? Do they care about clean water? I know all of a sudden we're arguing about whether or not global climate change is real again, which is okay. Well, let's have that argument one more time. But even if you don't believe in climate change, which I don't even have that conversation anymore. If someone says they don't believe in climate change or think it's a hoax, I go, fine. Do you think we should have clean rivers? Do you think our rivers we should be able to swim in them? Should we be able to swim in the water and the lakes and the rivers and streams and in the ocean?
Jen Dugan, executive director of the Environmental Integrity Project, said this decision by the Trump administration will mean that slaughterhouses will continue to dump huge amounts of pollution into America's waterways, making them unhealthy for swimming, fishing, and drinking. This gross neglect degrades the quality of life of Americans across the country.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever been downstream from one of these places? It's pretty horrific.
Yeah, it's gross.
It's super gross. All the fish die. There's nothing in the river. Just nastiness. Just flies.
Yep. If you are just joining the program, you are listening to Vegan World Radio here on Houston's own KPFT 90.1 FM, streaming at kpft.org online.
Yeah, it's a super positive episode today on the Vegan World Radio channel. Celebrating wins today. No, it's kind of a depressing episode, Doctor. We don't have any good news, do we?
I have good news. I love that my paper was published in the Journal of Veterinary Medical Education.
That was a great paper too. I read it. It was wonderful. Good job. Who'd you write it with again? You had a couple of people. You academics are always writing it with a bunch of other people, aren't you?
Yep. Dr. Robin Chadwin wonderful. And Ryan Merkley from the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine.
Oh, wonderful.
Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine did a great job of getting public records on all of the public U.S. and Canadian veterinary schools to figure out how many animals these schools are killing in student veterinary training. And our new paper just kind of describes how many are killed, lists all of the schools, their justifications for doing this, what kind of classes were done, how these animals were sourced, and it really dives into all of this. And it's public access, so Google my name, Journal of Veterinary Medical Education, you can read it for yourself. We found that in 1 year across all of these schools, which were 26 different schools that we got these documents from, we found University of Arizona and Texas Tech were the only two public schools that did not kill animals in their student training or didn't have protocols listing animal killing. But 8,558 poultry birds were killed in 1 year, 1,441 rodents, 906 horses, equines, horses and ponies, 865 dogs, 679 small ruminants, 521 fish, 386 pigs, 347 cows, 324 avians, birds, 287 exotics, 205 cats, 131 camelids, 25 other ungulate species, and 25 non-human primates. So that was
all being killed to train veterinarians. Now, of course, the number that I keep on looking at is the horses. And so I looked up how many racehorse deaths there are per year in America. And the animal rights organization Horse Racing Wrongs, who are consistently higher than industry reports, of course, they say that in 2023, 919 horses died for horse racing. Some were euthanized off-site, some died during training. But they estimate 919 in 2023 and 850 in racehorse deaths. So if 906 horses are being killed in order to train veterinarians, that's like almost as many that are dying in horse racing. We're talking...
Yeah. And to be fair, like some of these horses are horses where they have a terminal illness, their quality of life is low, and their owners, their people, their human beings are donating them to the school so that they can be killed, euthanized, and used as a cadaver, which in theory would be ethical, I think. If a horse is going to be euthanized due to poor quality of life, might as well use their body for students to learn anatomy and procedures on after they're dead. But
sure, like if you have a dog at your home and they're gonna die and you need to put them down, you might as well donate them to veterinary training, right? I think that's a fair use of
Same
but
with
that's
your
not
grandma.
what all these
Maybe
are.
your grandma at the end of her life, she wants to donate her body to medical students. That's great. If we would do the same thing for a human being as we do for the animal, I think that's perfectly fine.
Fair play.
But the
that's
problem
not what this is it?
Well, maybe a lot of these horses are that, but some of them are horses purchased from breeders, from auctions, who are horses who are transferred from other experimental protocols and who could go on to live happy, healthy lives in a sanctuary, but instead are being euthanized for student training. And that's not ethical.
What about the chickens? 8,800 and something chickens, almost 9,000 chickens.
Most of those were from North Carolina State University. They have a big poultry science program, and those chickens, a lot of them were sent to slaughter, which, some people might find that's ethical because, well, they're going to be slaughtered anyway. But a lot of vet students are conscientious objectors to the animal-based protein industry, and they would want to participate in that. And we also found horrifying protocols where one Florida protocol where the the birds were purposefully killed via cervical dislocation while they were awake.
Wringing their necks, in other words.
So that students could practice how to kill chickens this way, which is pretty horrifying. This
is I don't even know what to make of this sometimes. Like, what are we going to do about this? You know, if the veterinarians are kind of conscripted in a way to carry out these atrocities, and most of them aren't conscientious objectors. Most of them are perfectly willing to, you know, do what they do to rats. How many small rodents were on there as well? Thousands of small rodents were killed.
1,441 rodents killed.
1,441 rodents. And so, I mean, these are animals, usually rodents, they're bred for that purpose. They're bred in order to be killed by the scientific industries, and veterinary school being one.
And some disturbing things, some of these animals were purchased from pet stores for the schools to use and kill, which is pretty gross too.
Well, people, you know, they're buying mice to feed to snakes. I guess you just go buy. You can buy some of these mice. You can buy them for $1 each. You know, something like that. Why not go to the pest? It's. What do we do about it? What's going on? Like, what's the
my
plan here?
answer is we are going to write letters to all of the deans and ask them to change. We're getting some press attention on this. We are going to encourage more veterinarians to come on our podcast and share their stories and say how they view this as wrong and talk about the alternatives to this. We can teach vet students on models and on animals who actually need these procedures under the guidance of experienced veterinarians. That's how I learned surgery. I didn't have to kill any animals, and I think everybody deserves the opportunity that I had. And we have to dispel some of the myths that are being perpetuated. There's a lot of very defensive vet students right now who think that they cannot get adequate training without killing animals. And we have to say, well, that's just not true.
Yeah.
There are better ways. You have a duty, a moral obligation to encourage your schools to adopt more effective teaching methods. And I think, you know, we'll start to see some changes happen.
Well, you know, so my girlfriend's got really long hair, you know, she's got very long hair, and I cut my own hair, and she was like, well, can you cut mine? And I said, no way. There's no way I'm going to cut your hair, because, you know, women cry with, no, I'm not touching your hair. And what I did, I had her look up a local hair school, and they for very long hair, this layered thing they had like a menu you could even, and it cost like $35, and it was like, normally it'd be a $500 or $600 thing, right? It's like very expensive, because when you have the longer your hair is, the harder, blah blah blah. Why can't we do the same thing with vets is the question. Why can't I got a dog, and my dog's sick, and I'm poor, you know, I'm living it close to the ball, you know, I'm in this economy, I don't have enough to care for my animal, but my animal's sick and I care. Why can't I take it to a vet school and have somebody work on it for free, or, you know, work on my imaginary pet for free? Why can't
That's
that
how
happen?
my veterinary school worked. I went to UC Davis School of Veterinary Medicine, and we had a community surgery program, and people would come in, and I remember doing an FHO, which is a femoral head ostectomy on a dog, and there's a flat fee of $500, and the student does it, but there's a veterinary surgeon right there making sure you do everything correctly. And I also did a bilateral mastectomy on a dog who had mammary cancer. And, you know, that was very extensive surgery, painful surgery. That dog got really good care, like got soaker catheters of anesthesia, anesthetic, blocking all in the mammary
You went above and beyond
glands.
for these animals because you were a student trying to do everything like the right way.
Got to stay in the hospital. Like, it was a fantastic
Well, then why is
surgery.
UC Davis still killing animals?
That's for the large animal people, because I was a conscientious objector to that lab where they do hernias on they have the students fix a hernia on a pig and then just kill the pig afterwards so that they don't wake up from anesthesia when that pig could go to a sanctuary and live a perfectly happy life. They also like take these calves and they perform eyeball removal, claw removal on these calves, castrate the calves, and then just
kill them.
Just kill the calves afterwards. It's pretty disturbing. And I'm hoping maybe we could partner with some faculty at UC Davis and some of these other schools and stop that program. Texas A&M, I remember a bunch of students reached out to me because they were blindsided. They had to perform this laboratory where goats were killed, and they didn't want to kill the goats. And so the student got a different class, like they were conscientious objectors to it, but that class still happens and it doesn't need to happen. Students shouldn't have to choose between like, oh, I don't get the opportunity to learn from that class. You know, and maybe my classmates feel judged because I'm taking this moral stand and they're not. Do they feel a little defensive about that? Which I think many vet students do feel defensive. And then they have to justify it of like, well, I'm getting a better education than that, you know, soft-hearted, bleeding heart person who doesn't understand the harsh realities of the world. When really those students aren't getting the real truth. Like they are missing out on the opportunity to see their patient wake up from anesthesia and managing their patient's pain afterwards. So
how do veterinary students respond when you say things like we should stop this stuff? Are they really?
Well, it turns out when you refer to it as veterinary schools performing animal sacrifices, they get really angry, even though in lab animal medicine,
they call it sacrificing. Yeah.
They call it sacrificing the animals. But when you say veterinary schools are performing animal sacrifices, they call me a lunatic for saying that. And, you know,
that's what
like
they call it. They say I sacrificed these animals after we were done with these tests. That's what they say.
No sense of humor, these kids these days. No sense of humor. They just want to stick to the talking points and point out when you don't say the things the right way.
Elon Musk said that humor was coming back. What happened with that? I thought humor was
some of the
legal
livestock vet students, especially. They don't have much of a sense of humor. Those livestock vets. But you know, maybe things will change. I think we'll continue to have these conversations. We'll continue to point out the fallacies in their reasoning. And we'll push the deans to adopt more ethical, more effective. I shouldn't say ethical because this isn't an ethics thing. It's not like, well, should we kill the animals so the students get a better education? It's like, no, the students will get a better education when they're actually providing care to patients who need it. And they get to see their patient wake up from anesthesia and manage their care than they do by just killing their patients needlessly.
Well, let's get back to, we were talking about bird flu and animal farming, animal producing, the protein production. What's going on there? We've got this $10 billion investment for new dairies. What's that all about?
Yeah, the U.S. is currently experiencing a historic $10 billion investment in new dairy processing facilities, expected to come online through 2027. So apparently protein produced by milking cows is the future.
So I don't get it though. Like it's not the future, right? They're selling less dairy. I guess they are selling more whey. I saw a report a while back that they're making more money off of whey protein than they are off of dairy. I mean, it's still dairy, but you know what I mean. They're making more money off of the whey protein than they are off of like.
I'd like to see those numbers. I know, you know, doing the math on another facility, it looked like, you know, a bunch of their income was coming from selling manure, low carbon fuel standard credits, selling the beef on dairy calves.
Oh, I was looking at it from a lot of cheese companies that were selling like fancy cheeses and stuff. They're making less money these days because people are cutting out cheese. But a lot more people are just taking that protein powder. They're making whey protein. Yeah, so they're making now more money. They're some of these cheese mongers or whatever. They're not mongers, but these cheese producers. They've been doing it for like 100 years, 150 years. They're old companies, and they're seeing sharp falls in sales. But they're making way more money than they ever did because they've switched over to whey protein.
Yeah. But also the number of replacement heifers available to enter the dairy herd as milk-producing cows has fallen to a 20-year low. And total U.S. beef semen, are we allowed to say that? Sales nearly tripled.
I think it's a scientific, what else are you supposed to say? That's most a scientific term for it.
I don't know. Nearly tripled from 2.5 million to 7.2 million units. 2.5 million to 7.2 million units from 2017 to 2020. That is crazy. That is like more than 3 times as much
semen. So they're buying more semen, but the number of replacement heifers is going down. Is that because the semen is being used for beef and not dairy, I guess is the point
Possibly.
of that. Total U.S. beef semen sales. So
yeah. Oh, so beef. A lot of beef is being made.
More beef is being made, but less
and I think
dairy.
That might have also, like, if you're breeding beef cows, beef bulls, I guess, to your dairy cow in order to get that beef on dairy offspring so you can sell that offspring as beef, that might lead to a lower number of replacement heifers available. But dairy heifer prices have reached record highs and could climb well above $3,000 per head. So if you breed your dairy cow to a dairy bull and you get a dairy cow offspring, you could get $3,000. That's a lot of money.
It's big money for selling slaves. There's always money in slavery.
One producer said that they made like $1,000 a year or something on selling the milk
flesh
per cow, just the milk.
But they make like almost double that off the beef. Is that what it is?
No. So just selling the milk per cow per year makes $1,000 or so, $1,000 to $1,500 just by selling her milk. And then they get so much money from selling their manure, but the big money comes from their offspring. And now it used to be like $1,400 they would get for the calf if the calf was sold as a beef calf, but $3,000 for a dairy heifer. That's some good money. So
every 9 months you could theoretically every 9 months get another $3,000 out of these.
Oh my God! Now you're testing my knowledge. What is the gestation length?
It's 9 months.
Is it?
It's the same amount as a human. Yeah, it's 9 months.
Okay, good to know.
It's
something I should have on the top of my head, but I'm like not confident on that stat.
In outreach, we gotta people tell. It's just like us, 9 months. Yeah, it's about once a year they're able to.
9 months, 283 days. It looks like cool.
You doubted me, but yeah, no,
I'm ashamed at my own lack of not having that at the top of mind.
That's because you don't do as much outreach as I do. You don't stand in the street talking to people about this stuff. That's all. You actually have to do, learn about their bones and muscles and stuff. So, I mean, at $3,000 per head, it makes it sound a little crazy to me, though, if the taxpayer is putting $10 billion investing into dairy processing, but dairy sales are down. The number of replacement heifers
is dairy
down.
Sales down? I don't know that fact.
Only by a couple percentage points, but it was going down. I mean, last time I checked, it went down by like 1 or 2% in America, but it's like it goes up and down. I think it's negligible. Okay. But is the future dairy? Is dairy the future? $10 billion? Is that what we need to invest? I mean, shouldn't we take that $10 billion and do basically any other type of protein investment?
I think so. But shall we move on? Because we've got just a few minutes left. So I was in the Central Valley investigating the effects of heat stress on dairy cows, and was interviewed by a radio show about this. And I want to say this is how it went. And Blue, if you could play that clip for me, please.
Hit it, Blue.
Animal rights group called Our Honor is being very vocal about Valley dairy operations this summer. The group claims that no matter what dairies do to keep dairy cows safe during the high heat of the summer, animals are still suffering. Dr. Crystal Heath, a veterinarian and is also the executive director of Our Honor. She says climate change is driving her concerns.
I am here again in Tulare County today, continuing to document facilities and what they are doing to mitigate heat stress of dairy cows and how many dairy cows on these facilities are showing signs of heat stress. We might turn this documentation into a study of some kind, but we're just gathering data right now. The increasing temperatures in Tulare over the years has been very concerning, and cows show signs of heat stress when the temperature humidity index is between 90 and 99 degrees. They suffer severe heat stress. So animals experiencing signs of heat stress include increased respiratory rate, open mouth panting, excessive drooling, a drop of feed intake, aggression and fighting for access to shade and water. They may spend more time standing, less time laying down, and seeking shade. And we're seeing a lot of these behaviors on these facilities. Some facilities are attempting to mitigate heat stress in dairy cows by providing fans and providing shade and providing misters or soakers. But even on those facilities where they are providing those things, it's simply not enough to mitigate the signs of heat stress in a lot of these cows. And unfortunately, I'm seeing many facilities are having cows that pass away. I don't know if it's heat stroke, but we're seeing some bodies left on the side of the road for rendering trucks to pick up. So this is very concerning.
Again, that's Dr. Crystal Heath, who is the executive director of Our Honor. That group is being very critical about the impact of extreme heat on dairy cows in the Central Valley. Now for the other side of the story. The National Milk Producers Federation says within the National Dairy Farm Program standards, protection from heat under typical climate conditions is required. Tools such as misters, fans, and shade structures are commonly used to reduce body temperature, enhance airflow, and increase overall cow comfort. The National Milk Producers Federation also says keeping cows cool is not only essential for animal health and welfare, but also directly supports the success of dairy operations. Meanwhile, the Animal Agriculture Alliance, an industry organization that supports and protects various stakeholders in the animal agriculture sector, offers some insight on the animal rights group Our Honor. Emily Ellis is with the Animal Agriculture Alliance.
Our Honor is a heavily intertwined organization with the animal rights extremist movement. The group was founded several years ago by Crystal Heath. She's a shelter veterinarian who has been an active member of other animal rights extremist organizations.
They basically just attacked you, is what their answer was. You're like, hey, there's lots of cows being hurt. That lady, she's an extremist.
Hey, these are the signs of heat stress in dairy cows. This is what we're seeing, and no response to what and I was even saying, I even said they're trying to mitigate this with shade, fans, misters, soakers, but it's simply not enough to mitigate this. And they ignore everything that I say and just are like, and they call Our Honor an animal rights organization, which we are not. We are a veterinary advocacy organization. So I thought that was a little unfair. But I wonder, like, would normal people listen to that and be able to critique their portrayal of me and what I said and evaluate the segment?
What do you think? I have low expectations. I think ad hominem works all the time. I mean, listen to our president. Anything you say, it's like, how dare you ask me a question like that? I can't believe you would say that. I can't believe it. You fake news. Like, this is how it always works. Like, you attack the person who's making the argument rather than attack the argument itself. It's a logical fallacy, and they're engaging in it. It really is schlock journalism for them not to call it out, to be honest.
I know, but I thought it was interesting. It played well, as you know, I posted it on social media and got a lot of responses. And so I at least in my little social media bubble, people found it amusing. But I wonder if it'll reach the broader world, and will people be able to, like, say, hey, what is the dairy industry up to? Why are they criticizing this veterinarian who merely, like, went on and talked about these are the signs of heat stress and this is what they're seeing? But yeah.
So $8 million university-based national pork board program is going to sunset?
Yeah, so this is we uncovered this program via Freedom of Information Act request and found that the National Pork Board was funding university scientists, veterinarians working to build consumer trust in pork, which I did a couple of stories on this, one in Vox, one in Sentient Media, and they're like, what's wrong with, an industry fostering consumer trust and confidence in their product using publicly funded university-based research? And I'm like, it's a bit like fostering public trust in asbestos, lead-based paint, leaded gasoline, tobacco, cigarette smoke. It's a bit like that. And I don't know if it's because of our media attention on it. And I also spoke about this at VMX, the largest veterinary conference in the country last year. But now this program will be no more. But I will keep my eye on it and file some more FOIA documents and see
I feel
what
like
the
another
National
one's
Pork
coming
Board
up,
is
right?
up to.
Yeah, I feel like the National Pork Board's got a plan for the sunsetting. I think that they've got another consumer trust propaganda psyop that they're going to perpetrate on us. I mean, maybe they're busy with the 12007 section in the Farm Bill.
Oh yeah, I would love to talk about that on this radio show, but we got a packed show, so
we got a packed show, and I know we're going to talk a lot in the coming months about the pardoned turkeys as we get closer to Thanksgiving. Americans kill almost 50 million turkeys for Thanksgiving every year, but two famously are pardoned every year, Doctor, aren't they? So what's happening this year? Who's getting pardoned this year?
So it will be likely a butterball turkey based on historical patterns of behavior. So the National Turkey Federation, whoever their leader is for that year, whatever company they work for, the turkeys from that company end up being pardoned by the president. And we're always thinking, how do we get in on this story and change the narrative and not make it just a big oh, look at this funny event where they pardon the turkeys and the media just takes part in this National Turkey Federation PR thing.
They do this little dance, don't they? The president does a dance for the corporations. The media does a dance for the corporations, and America just watches and thinks that is placated. I suppose we are all comfortable in the fact that they're eating these animals. Look, two got away.
The president obediently does whatever act the National Turkey Federation wants him to do. And I think one idea I have is to do a campaign where we ask people to really pardon the turkeys, because people might not know these turkeys end up going to poultry science departments, University of Minnesota, Purdue University, Iowa State University. One year they went to Disney. So they're always going to exploitative either universities or theme parks.
They continue to work for humanity rather than advocate and be ambassadors for themselves.
This time, we think that they should actually go to a sanctuary. So, I think that's something I'm going to be working on and talking about and maybe writing op-eds about and seeing if we can get that going. So, yeah.
I think it's a brilliant idea. I think we should be, if you're going to pardon them, if you pardon a criminal who actually did these turkeys didn't do anything wrong. If you pardoned a criminal, like when they finally pardoned Ghislaine Maxwell, she's just going to go free. She's not going to have to continue to work for anybody. These turkeys should be at least protected and not have to continue to work for humanity. They should work for, be ambassadors of freedom and liberty, I think. Their own, for their fellow turkeys.
Yeah. And it would be really nice for them to go to a sanctuary, especially a sanctuary that is a conscientious objector to the animal-based protein industry. And I'm sure the National Turkey Federation would.
Hello, everybody. This is John Del Toro Richardson from Houston, Texas. And I just wanted to say a little bit about KPFT and how much it's meant to my career and many of my colleagues in the area and throughout the country as they come in and tour around, stop into Houston. They've always been here for us whenever we needed them for promotions and anything as such. So we're very proud and happy to be